Okay. So let's get started, everybody. Sounds like we're all off to a good start today. Hopefully, everybody's doing okay. Did everybody have a chance to complete the test? There we go. I have some results. You guys are doing pretty good. I'm very proud of you. Your class passing rate is 85%. That's both of my classes. And so that means that 73 of you, when last I checked, which was this morning, 73 of you had an A, 41 of you had a B, 16 of you had a C, 24 of you need to redo the test, and 71 of you haven't done the test yet. So would you please do the test today? Yes? The test is 1.06 unit test, parts 1 and 2. Okay, if you were exempt, that's not going to be a problem because you won't see it on your okay. If you just got started last week, you won't see it. Don't worry, you're not responsible for it. You took it, Betsy. Good. All right. Okay, guys. And did you all get some feedback on the writing part of the test? Because I'm trying to give you all enough feedback to help you. If you need to redo the test, it's very important that you let me know. Email me so that I can set up. What we'll have to do is set up a time for you all to come in and do the some tutoring. Okay, Allie, you should have gotten some feedback, but some people say they get it and some people say they don't. Did you get your grade, Allie? Did you get a score? I graded more this last night, late last night, guys. I was up till midnight, my time grading. That's your time, guys. Okay. So anybody else have any questions or concerns? You're going to let me know, and I'm going to let you know by email today if you need to take that test. Also, 1.04, 1.05 from last week or week before last, the quiz. I sent out emails on missing ones. I'm going to send them out again. Raina, I'll have to look, but I think it was you got a pretty good score, I think, on the writing, I know. Most of y'all did pretty well, but I'm going to go over some of that with you. If you're missing anything, you still have time to make it up, guys. So let's get working, okay? I'm going to be sending out more emails and making phone calls. Okay, I'll be sending out emails and making phone calls. So please catch up your work, okay? Zeros go in today. So just because you get a 0 doesn't mean it's permanent. We can fix it. Raquel, did you submit the test? Because if you did, you should have gotten at least your score back. I put feedback on everybody, but some people say they get it and some people say they don't see it. If you don't see it, did you see your grade come back for part 2, Raquel? No feedback? Well, if you need feedback, I'll let you know. If you made a good grade, okay. All right. So if you're not getting feedback, email me and I will give you the feedback myself, okay? All right. Okay, guys. So our expectations, you're going to explain how physical geography and push and pull forces, including political, economic, and social and environmental conditions, affect the routes and flows of human migration. And you're going to evaluate the economic and political relationships between settlements and the environment. So what I want to do is make sure we understand today a little bit of human geography, but I sent out a link to a set of resources, a set of links on a screen, and I'm going to make sure that's updated. That's going to get you to all the resources you need. There are 2 quizzes this week, one for 1.02, one for 1.03. I'm told in the resource, the way that I sent it out right now, it's not working in 1.02. I'll update that as soon as I possibly can, as soon as we're done today. So those resources will be updated. Did everybody get an email with the link to the resources? Yep. Okay. Links to the notes, links to the resources. Yes, read. We're doing 2.04 today. Did you read 2.02 and 2.03 yet? You should have read that. And your mini lessons for this time are 2.02 and 2.03. And then, guys, we have coming up by Wednesday, I'd like you to do the mini lesson for NAFTA. That's in there too, okay? So you should have all your notes. You should have, I'll get the study guide out by the end of the week. Okay, you should have all of your notes and you should have all of your mini lessons. Make sure you do those mini lessons, okay? And by the way, with those quizzes, I see when you do them. So please do them because I'll know. And if I don't see you working on them, I'm going to let you know that I don't see it. All right. Okay. Any other questions before we move on? Formative, we're going to get the codes. We're going to get all that set up today, okay? Unit 1 test, you need a redo. I'll get that set up. All right, guys. Let me go back to the room chat. Okay. Let's take a look at this chart. This chart tells a lot of stories. Okay? Just from the title of the chart, what am I going to be studying in this chart? So let's look at the title first, and what am I going to be studying in this chart? Come on, guys. Okay, what decades? It's decades, but what over decades? Immigrants. The number of immigrants coming, and with immigrant with an I, it means they're coming into the Is everybody okay? Yeah, I got bumped out. I don't know what happened. Hello. Okay, in what year was immigration at its highest? Can you see my webcam? In what year was immigration at its highest? 1901? No. Why am I saying no? You're close. Let's look at something really interesting. The way that this is spaced out, it's in 20-year increments. 10, and then there's a middle year, and there's another year here. 1901 is here, and then we go back another 10 years, so that would put us at what year? 1891. Good. So one of the stories this tells us is that in what year was immigration at its highest? Okay. Then what happened after 1891? It's 1891, okay? Look at it again. Remember, these are in 20-year blocks, 10-year increments. So this point is between 1881 and 1901, so that's 1891, okay? Got that, Jaden? Okay. After 1891, it decreased rather dramatically, didn't it? Until at least 1931. Why do you think that happened? Do you think people just didn't want to come to the United States anymore? What does that tell us? There is a war in there between 1901 and 1921. There is a war, but that's not quite the answer. It's more that the push factor is still there and they still want to leave, but there's a problem. They weren't able to. Why do you think that was? Nope, depression comes in after 1929. Something's happened. You're close, Layla. Very good. You're on the right track. What do you think happened between 1891 and 1931? You're really close there, Allie. I'm going to type a word in. I want to see if y'all know what this word means. There's another word I'm going to type in too. Xenophobia is fear of the unknown or fear of the different, isn't it, Raquel? Okay, so it's fear of the different. So what does that word xenophobia tell us about maybe why people aren't coming in? The amount of immigration is dropping over that time. They were afraid? You think they were afraid? We didn't want them. We were afraid. Very good. So in xenophobia, you're the one that's afraid, okay? You're afraid of the unknown. So there are policies that come into play that keep people out. They're called protectionist policies, and that's what was happening in history. So if you were to see that in a United States history class or a world history class, do you think that chart tells us a story? Yeah. And in particular, what two groups of people do you think we didn't want? That's one of them. Nope, Islam wasn't even a problem then. Most people wouldn't even understand it at that point. There's a group of people that had worked in the United States from the 1860s, building the railroad, and then right around the turn of the century, nope, not the Irish, Very good. Nick, you got it. It's the Asians. It's people from China. There was an anti-Asian immigration policy that was very big at that time, a very big protectionist policy. So we wanted everybody to leave us alone. Sound familiar? Because you know what the thing about history, it always repeats itself, right? It sounds familiar, doesn't it? So we make the laws so that people can't come in. And then all of a sudden, immigration laws start to change, especially after the Great Depression into the 1940s. The laws start changing because we need people to come and work. And so we have the Bracera program with Mexico, and we start to welcome in more Asian immigrants, but not to the numbers, because we put in a quota system. We were afraid because of their unknown culture. Yes, absolutely. Disease? Well, yeah, but you know, were they really bringing any more disease than we already had? It's just that we were afraid of new languages. We were afraid of people who look different than us. Okay. Asian Americans were put into the camps starting in the 1940s, 1930s into the 1940s. Okay. Unknown culture. Absolutely, guys. That's an old story, right? It's an old story. We don't understand another culture. What culture now are we going to have to start understanding? Those of you that live in Houston know that there's a group of people in the 1970s that moved there after a war. What group of people moved there in the 1970s after a war? A lot of them live along the coast. A lot of them are fishermen. They're really good people. Great restaurants. Anybody? Nope. Nope. 1970s. Nope. Not Cajuns. What kind of Asians? Nope. Not Chinese. What group of immigrants is really nope, it's not Koreans, not Japanese, not Cubans. There's a group of immigrants, Vietnams. That's right, Vietnamese, guys. Devin, you're right. There are very large Vietnamese populations in along the Gulf Coast, in particular, going from Houston and all the way down to Corpus, even into Brownsville. And they came here after the Vietnam War because they brought their culture with them. And one of the things that they did was they fished. And so with them, they brought fishing. Okay? Have you ever noticed why when you go to a nail parlor, most of the people there, a lot of them are Vietnamese? Did you know that? Did you notice that? Okay. Always. Ladies, you know what I'm talking about. Okay. There's a reason. Because they were, when they came to the United States, they were taught that particular business. And a lot of them adapted that as their business. And they opened up businesses as nail salons. And so that's the reason that you see so many Vietnamese in the nail salons, and that's why it's cultural diffusion, guys. But those of you who've been to a nail salon know what I'm talking about, right? Okay. And that's not racist. They took that up as a reason. It was part of the Swedish lady. There you go. Okay. They took that as part of their culture and brought it. Now, what culture are we going to start seeing adapting here in the United States now? Because we're going to have quite a few of them that are here. We've got almost 15,000 of them coming to El Paso. Not Vietnamese. Nope. We're going to see a lot of cultural diffusion because there's a push factor from Afghanistan, right? Good. Samuel, that's correct. Afghanistan refugees. And they're bringing with them, if it weren't for the fact that when they came, they wanted a business. One of the things about Vietnamese culture is you had to have a business. And so they learned that business, a lot of them in California, and they brought it with them, and then they taught their families. And you know how that, and so all of a sudden, the culture of doing nails, what didn't come from Vietnam, it came from the United States to the Vietnamese. It's just that that group adopted it as part of why they were doing the nail salons. It just became a business that they took on. Donut places, very good. Okay. The Vietnamese opened a lot of donut places, especially near Dallas, Houston, Corpus, along the east coast of Texas. A lot of Vietnamese opened up. Koreans also opened up a lot of donut shops. So it is a traditional economy. They want there's a reason why certain people tend to be in certain types of jobs, and part of that is because it's part of the cultural part of the culture they bring with them. They want to start a business, and so, for instance, you might have a lot of people start bodegas, and those bodegas, you know what a bodega is, right? It's a little corner store, and a lot of times those bodegas are occupied by Sikhs, sometimes people that are Muslim, but they want to have a business. And it's just been going around in their families that's how you get your business. Okay, and the donuts, yes, Korean donuts. We had a man here up the street from me here in El Paso that came from Dallas, and he took the donut shop with him. You know what, Gentry? That's good. We have to learn. That's one of the really cool things about geography is we're gonna learn from other people. They bring with them things that we can learn that we never understood. Just because someone's different doesn't mean they're bad. Okay? There was a news article about the people that they had brought into Texas from Afghanistan over the last 2 or 3 weeks. And one of them, he got a hold of a cell phone and he got an Uber to come out 30 miles to a base that he was being stationed at. And he took an Uber to downtown El Paso from New Mexico and ended up downtown, but didn't know where to go. And somebody helped him. And then somebody said, well, why was he leave? Why did he leave? Because he could. These people helped us in Afghanistan. Y'all understand what I'm talking about, right? Try to welcome as many new people as possible. Very good. So was it wrong that he got an Uber and went to El Paso and found out about downtown El Paso? There wasn't much here. There's a bus station. That was about it. Okay, because somebody actually complained, went on the internet and said, well, they shouldn't be going. Yes, they should. They're completely open to come. They're coming here as refugees. Okay. All right. So push and pull factors. What is a push factor, guys? They are not prisoners. You're absolutely right. They're not in prisoner of war camps. Okay, what is a push factor? Pushing someone out. Okay, so in Afghanistan, is the problem a push factor or a pull factor? In Afghanistan, it's a push factor, isn't it? War. And the fact that the Taliban has come in and they don't want to be living under the Taliban government, because the Taliban are bringing with them a very religious, very strict government, and these people help the Americans, and so they've got a bounty on their head, don't they? Okay, so that's a push factor. Now, coming to the United States, they're not coming to the United States because they want to be Americans. They're coming to the United States because they want someplace to go, and we have to bring them somewhere. Okay, and we're getting other countries around the world to help us too, because some of them are going to go to other countries. All right, so push factors are things like the fact that you don't have freedom in your country is a push factor, right? That was a push factor for Cuba, wasn't it? Okay, how about economic opportunity? The fact that maybe you lose your job because and that's something we're going to talk about with NAFTA. In Mexico, there was a side effect. A lot of Mexican farmers were losing their jobs, and Mexican farm workers, and so they ended up wanting to come to the United States because they couldn't get a job in Mexico, and that was a push factor, not a pull factor. Okay. Agricultural changes. The Irish potato famine, where the potatoes that had been brought over from the New World, by the way, the potatoes start to go rotten all over, and they don't have enough to eat. And so where do they come? They come to the United States. They always give you extra donuts, and they always give you a sample, don't they? Potato famine had to go to America to work in factories. Yes, they did, because they had family here, and they had no opportunity. Okay. The man that operated the donut shop up the street from me, when I came in, he always gave me a baker's dozen, and then he'd give me a few more. Okay. When a country becomes overpopulated, is that a push factor or a pull factor? That's okay, Alia. It's a push factor. Overpopulation is a push factor. The fact that there's plenty of room in the United States and there wasn't plenty of room in Europe. Push or pull? That is a racist stereotype, Carmen. You're absolutely right, and we don't like that, do we? Okay? We don't want racist, and that's horrible. That's what I mean by xenophobia. We don't want the racist stereotype. Okay, so and we know somebody who went up on television after going down an escalator and said those things, didn't he? And anyway. So population growth is a push factor, but what about a pull factor? The fact that the United States had empty land and not a lot of people was a pull factor. Was a pull factor, right? The fact that we had jobs to offer is a pull factor. Okay? Changes in climate, push or pull? He's saying what a lot of Americans think. Is it and it's a stereotype. And yes, we could go into debates. Okay. So Industrial Revolution. The fact that in England and in Great Britain and in the United States, we started to industrialize. Does that attract people to come, or does that keep people out? Okay. So the Industrial Revolution would have been a pull factor. All right, so let's stop for just a second because I noticed that we had some side conversations that I want to address. Okay? First of all, and this is very, very, very important. Okay? Y'all listening? When we get into a topic like this, push and pull factors, culture, differences, it's going to lead us into some conversations that may or may not make others either feel offended or feel defensive. They feel like, oh, you're saying that I am. Okay, let's get a couple things straight. We're going to look at things the way they are so that we can learn, okay? So that we can learn from each other, and we're going to keep opinions out of it, and I'm going to do the best I can. But all of us make mistakes sometimes, and sometimes our opinions do shine out, and it's okay to be open and honest with each other, but what are we going to be? Polite, objective, respectful. Very good. Can we respect differences between each other? Because I guarantee you that in my side of the state, people don't think quite the same way they do in other sides of the state. I guarantee you that because I have relatives all over the state. Okay? So in my side of the state, polite, objective, and generous. Very good. In my side of the state, things kind of appear a little different than they might on your side of the state. You guys on your side of the state may hear things about my side of the state that may or may not be true. And I hear things about your side of the state that may or may not be true because this is a big state and there's 700 miles between us. So we can approach it in one of two ways. We can either be disrespectful or we can respect each other's opinions, right? Can I get a yes? Yes? Okay, good. All right. So please understand where I'm coming from. I understand where you guys are coming from. I've been teaching about Texas for a very long time, guys, and I understand how this state kind of works. And I understand we are a very diverse state. Y'all know that, right? Culturally and ethnically and even language. We're more than a melting pot. You know what the difference between a melting pot and a stew pot is? Billy, you know what the difference is? What's the difference? Stew's bigger? What pulled Texas to join the United States? Well, I could tell you, but what I tell you may not play in well with what others in the state believe. Okay, let's go back to the stew pot, and then we'll talk more about Texas culture a little bit later. And yes, Texas was part of Mexico or something. Okay. Okay. Here's the thing. A stew pot has pieces of carrots and potatoes and meat and everything else in it, right? Do we put everything in a blender and put it all into one pot and say, here you go, mush? That wouldn't taste very good, would it? Okay. When we say a melting pot, then we mean that everybody has to jump in that pot, get melted down, and be the same. Do we really want that? Do we want everybody to be the same? Of course not. So we're going to talk a lot about melting pots and stew pots in this class. And if you look at the melting pot, that means that culturally, I have to give up a lot of my culture and take on a lot of your culture. That's called acculturation. And we oftentimes don't like to do that, right? Should I have to give up my culture to come to another place in order to live there? Or can somebody else learn a little bit something from me? So in El Paso, we call that a caldo, okay, which means stew in Spanish. Okay, so I always tell my students at the college, we can either have a melting pot or a caldo. I like a caldo. I like a stew pot. We each learn from each other. So that means that we respect the fact that we have individual differences, right? We respect the fact that we each think, act differently, because we are all individuals. I bet she likes caldos. Yeah. I want to go get some caldo for lunch. Caldo de res. Beef stew. Okay. So do you understand the difference between what I'm saying and the difference between a melting pot and a stew pot? A melting pot and a stew pot. Okay. And is it important to understand that? Is it important to understand that there's a difference? Okay. Why is it more important to understand the difference between a melting pot and a stew pot? And why? How does that work in with our push and pull factors? Evolution, I don't know about that. How about cultural what? Let's see what we can get so we can get along. It's important to understand what cultural diffusion is all about and what acculturation is all about. Okay, let's think of a few push factors, specific push factors and pull factors. When I looked at the writing, a lot of you guys kind of got knocked down a little bit because you didn't give me very specific examples, or you gave me examples that were right out of the book. So give me some push factor examples and pull factor examples that you can think of that we haven't talked about yet. Cultural diffusion pushes and pulls people, doesn't it? It does both. It's a little bit of both, isn't it? Okay. I give some of my culture, you give some of your culture. If I have to give up all of my culture and take on your culture, that's a melting pot. If I get to keep some of my culture and you get to learn some of my culture and I get to learn some of your culture, then that's a stew pot. Does that make sense? Okay. So pull factors. We are a free country. We are a democracy, and we love our freedoms and liberties. Yes. Yes, I know. We're going to be done. Let's see. We should be done in about 3 minutes. Some places have gangs and stuff, and they're usually separated by race, and it's push and pull. True. Can you think of a country right now that's sending a lot of people to the United States that because of a gang problem, a problem with violence? And it's in North America. It's Central America, really, but because a lot of people that are coming to the United States, Colombia is one. A lot of people coming to the United States. Mexico, no. It's south of Mexico. Mexico's not the biggest. No, not Cubans. Guatemala, Honduras, and Belize are 3 Central American countries that are sending a lot of people here because they're having gang violence problems. And a lot of the people that are coming here, they're being packed away by their parents, and they're young. And that's the reason we're seeing so many young people. Okay? That's the reason we're seeing so many young people coming into the border, is because of this. I mean, can you imagine what guts it takes to pack up your kids and send them by themselves and send them to another country? That takes a lot of guts, doesn't it? See, that's the stuff I get to see on my side of the state. Okay. Medical care is a good pull factor. Child labor if we're working, and Guatemala is big on child labor. They work children for very little money, and if they can find a job at all. Iraq is not in South America. Iraq is not in South America. That's a whole different part of the world. I know you know. I'm sure you do, Nick. Okay. Racism, war. What else? What are some other push factors? Education. You mean the fact that you can get an education? Yes. Okay. Anti-feminism. That's an interesting push factor. It is in Iraq right now, isn't it? Not Iraq, I'm sorry, Afghanistan. The Afghanis, the Taliban said that the women could go to college and school as long as they go to a separate school. They can't go to school with boys. But I have a feeling that's not going to last very long either. Because the Taliban has always been against women or girls going to school. They don't think that should happen. And that's something that I don't think we're going to change. If you come to America for anti-feminism, you're coming to the wrong place. There's some truth in that. What other pull and push factors can we talk about? Culture and crops, okay? If the crops go bad, that's a push factor. If you can grow crops somewhere else, or crops are growing somewhere else, you have easier time growing them, then that's a pull factor, isn't it? Okay? All right, guys, you're doing a great job. One other thing I want to do, and then we're going to stop. Okay? What's the term we're looking for? When people migrate, they also bring with them their unique culture, their ideas, their products, their customs, their technology, their innovation, their languages, and how they influence other people. Cultural diffusion. Now, cultural diffusion. Are you getting a better understanding of why we just keep throwing this thing at you? Are we learning anything, guys? I think we are. You guys are doing great. Okay. If you haven't finished that test, please get working on it. Otherwise, have a really good day. If you need anything, please email me, and I will get to working with you guys. Learning a lot. I hope we are. Great. I'll see you all later.